Hey everyone, this is JVL here with my Bulwark colleague Andrew Egger, and things are happening over at the Department of Defense where the big, tough, warlike warfighters are feeling a little sensitive and really just want people to be nicer to them. And Andrew, do you remember when the Texas National Guard showed up in Illinois last week?
Boy, do I.
Yeah, big moment. We had the governor of Texas tweeting about it and pounded his chest with how butch his elite war fighters were, and then we get the pictures of the gentleman from the Texas National Guard deplaning in Illinois, and some of them were a little husky,
A little big boned. That's okay.
big boned.
Be in the National Guard and
I feel like,
be ready to throw your weight around a little bit.
Are you old enough to remember Silence of the Lambs?
I've seen Silence of the Lambs. Yes.
Jane Gunn, the great Ted Levine, going, "Oh, was she a big fat person? Was she a big fat girl?" Oh, a little bit of that going on. And people out on social media clowned on Pete Hegseth over this because he had just a few days before given his big, like, "I want you all doing push-ups and chin-ups and shaving off your body hair and getting all oily and super not gay." And anyway, over the weekend, Pentagon announced that they had gone and replaced some of those husky Texas National Guard soldiers with people who are more physically fit. And the defense secretary was onto the Twitters, beating his chest about it. Standards are back, yeah. Have you ever seen anything like this?
It's really good. It's really funny on a couple. I mean, basically, this is a story that's taking place on two levels, right? You have the deployment of the National Guard that's going in. You have, Pete Hegseth, God love him, wanting to enforce, standards and wanting to make sure that nobody's laughing at our troops. Make sure that everyone has fear for our troops because they're war fighters and they're the best of the best. They're the most lethal of the most lethal. And these are the people that he's trying to send into blue cities in a law enforcement role,
right? Which are literal war zones.
All very macho. Yeah, but then there's the other side of this whole thing, which is that Pete Hegseth, despite all of that sort of posturing and stuff, is also extremely sensitive to online critique, to the idea that people are laughing at his different initiatives, to the idea that people are letting down his initiatives and things like this. And so it's all kind of like a perfect storm here, where you get this sort of like online clowning. Now, look. These people who are going in, according to the actual government, the only thing these troops are there to do is to sort of assist local law enforcement in this sort of auxiliary role, because that's what's allowed under the law. So, like, that's what they're saying in court. And like, you could be a somewhat more heavy set National Guardsman and do that job just fine, right? So, like, it would be very easy for Pete Hegseth to, it would be easy for another guy in Pete Hegseth's role to just ignore this online clowning, right? Just carry on. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep soldiering forward, pushing ahead with, the terrorizing blue cities and all these sorts of things. It's okay, buddy. Like, it's actually not that big of a deal. But like, the idea that people are laughing at this stuff online is very hateful to him. So not only do they go and pull those National Guardsmen and replace them and basically say, well, they were all rolled out so quickly, we didn't actually have time to put the correct standards in place that we otherwise would have done to get the fatties and the uggos out of there. But not only that, but you actually have Pete Hegseth, sharing these articles now on X and saying, "Look, mission accomplished. We did it. We got the high BMI guys out of there, and things are now as they ought to be." It's really just an amazing story.
I have a thing about like the idea of standards, because on the one hand, I believe that standards are good, and that we should hold people to standards, especially standards of like professional conduct. But I do feel like the standards need to be tethered to like the actual job. Like, for instance, if you had somebody who was a painter, you would not ask them to like pass a bunch of standards in sculpture. You're like, well, they're not going to be sculpting, they're going to be painting, right? And like with this, what you're doing is you're deploying the National Guard into American cities to do a quasi law enforcement role in which their job is to manage civilian interactions. I'm not sure that like any of that is really tied. That again, we're looking for is training and disposition, right? Are they trained to do that sort of thing? Do they have the judgment and disposition to be able to do that effectively? Like, are they a size 32 waist? Doesn't really bear on that. And this is where it gets to like the weird snowflakiness of Hegseth. I want to read to you what he said when he was talking about just last week. Frankly, it's tiring to look at a combat formations or really any formation and see fat troops. It's tiring to him personally. It gives him a tired. It makes him need his nap time. Like, this is just, it's so weird. It's so weird to be a super duper butch warfighting warrior, tip of the spear, and also to be so obsessed with what people are tweeting about you.
Yeah, I mean, it all for Hegseth in particular, and this is like very much a psychodrama of this one guy. I mean, what it all comes back to is just sort of his personal obsession with image, right? I mean, he was in the military. He does have the military background. By all accounts, he did fine while he was in there. But ever since he has been in the military, he has been in sort of a series of these sort of like PR type roles, right? Where he's running these nonprofits and raising money sort of like in a sort of troop adjacent space, or he's on TV and he's playing this character of the morning news host with the military background and sort of like playing up the sort of military vet machismo and all of that stuff. And now, again, like carrying that forward into being the Department of Defense secretary who was picked because Donald Trump really liked that image, right? Because Donald Trump sees him as the kind of guy who carries forward the appropriate sort of branding for the U.S. military. And it's just everything he does is shot through with this stuff where you know, it's, look, again, I'm totally right there with you in terms of the standards. Like, whatever physical jobs U.S. service members need to be able to do, it's important to you know, that they be able to do those, and that people be held to those standards, right? I mean, that stuff matters, right? 100% that stuff matters. But for Hegseth, that stuff matters less than this idea that we're always talking about how much they matter, and we're always hustling to get there, and we're always doing burpees, you know, on social media clips and things like that. Do they look the part? Yeah, exactly. Right. And again, what the part is, you alluded to it just a minute ago. What the part is very different if you are like deployed overseas in a like actual military context versus if you are deployed to Chicago. And again, Hegseth has completely collapsed all of this stuff, which is why you know, it's even the guys who are deployed as National Guardsmen to Chicago, it's a very big sort of national security crisis if they are not looking like Mr. Universe out there.
One more Hegseth quote here. It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon leading commands around the country and the world. I get a little crazy about this. So time is finite, right? There are only 24 hours in a day. And look, I'm all for self-care. And people do, a lot of times there's a body-mind connection where to be at your sharpest mentally, you need to be exercising your body physically. I totally understand that. But also, when you're a general or an admiral, your job is really logistics. You don't need to be able to pick up a pugil stick and like do American Gladiator shit on behalf of the American Armed Forces. What you need to understand is like, well, how do you move forces from place to place? How do you ensure supply lines? This is, you know, there's an old joke in military circles about how like amateurs do strategy and professionals do logistics. And that's, again, it's just the weird fixation that like, I want my generals spending 90 minutes to 2 hours in the gym every day and not like sitting doing advanced analytics on how to manage supply lines for their command. Yeah. Do you not understand what the job is, Pete?
What I want to know is why Pete Hegseth does not come out very forcefully lobbying for like a military dispensation for Ozempic for every general, right? I mean, you just clean up the problem right away. You save all of that time for the actual duties involved, or, you know, so these people to have some semblance of a life to maintain a grip on their humanity. That's probably kind of important for our top generals as well. But you know, just do that, and then your fat general's problem is solved much more quickly and simply, Pete.
Yeah, the Mahas don't like that though. They like HGH and ivermectin, not Ozempic or sertraline. It's very, very complicated. So the other thing that happened is that if you are a media outlet that has not signed a pledge of loyalty to the Department of Defense, you lose your press pass over the Pentagon. And that loyalty pledge includes a promise not to solicit even unclassified information from any employee who has not been officially approved to release that information, which is a complicated way of saying not reporting. So it is a way of saying that if you have a press pass, the only thing you're allowed to publish are the things that we officially release to you.
Yes, you are allowed to transcribe the press releases, and that is mostly the main thing under this. This has been a very weird story. Deadline is today, is Tuesday, and it goes into effect tomorrow, Wednesday, which means like we are right on the cusp of this. And it has been a weird story to watch because the Pentagon has already had to pull back quite a bit on what they were trying to get journalists to sign to, which was basically like, we promise that we will not do any reporting along the lines of what you just said. That was going to get signed by like 0% of outlets. And that includes, the most wildly pro-Trump places in the building. Like even One American News Network was not prepared to sign that. So they have somewhat walked it back to now being this weird sort of like halfway document where they're saying, the Pentagon expects that journalists aren't going to do any of this sort of thing. And you journalists understand that we, the Pentagon, expect that you will do no reporting in the building or on military matters that we have not expressly authorized or otherwise. And even this is just a ridiculous thing for the federal government to be making anybody jump through these hoops in order to be doing the basics of, free press reporting and being able to do the mutually beneficial work of going to briefings at the Pentagon, hearing what the U.S. government line is on a lot of these sorts of things, getting a U.S. government spokesperson to answer their questions, and defend the case of what it is that they're trying to do. I mean, it's not like a SOP. It's not like a privilege to these journalists to have this arrangement. It's for the benefit of the government as much as anything else to have these things happen. And so they're in this weird situation now where like they obviously do want that to continue to happen, but they can't really say they want that to continue to happen because they're MAGA, I mean, it's a big part of MAGA that like the press is this just sort of stupid institution that shouldn't exist and you should never give them the time of day. And so now, again, they're at this sort of halfway document. Even the halfway document, though, nobody is signing it. I mentioned One American News before. They are the only ones who have signed this sort of revised version of the document. All the big publications, Washington Post, New York Times, The Atlantic, Associated Press, CNN, they are not signing this document.
I believe, as of we are sitting recording, Newsmax.
Even other right-wing publications. Yeah. Yes, Newsmax has not signed. Both the Washington Times and the Washington Examiner have said they're not going to sign. Fox News hasn't said one way or another yet. Maybe by the time we publish this video, they'll have. I mean, they're in an awkward spot because they're the biggest, by far the biggest publication on the right, and Pete Hegseth is like formerly one of them, so it's kind of awkward. But it's. And none of the trade publications either, like none of the actual
Defense
military
daily,
focus.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're looking at a situation where like Pentagon press briefings starting tomorrow are going to be like one guy from OAN. It's just like, is that actually what Pete Hegseth wants? I mean, the whole thing is so sort of shambolic and silly. And this has been so true of his tenure in particular, like all these initiatives. I don't know. It would all be really, really funny if it were not, again, like the U.S. military. That's the butt of all of these jokes here.
Let me take the other side of this, though. If you're Pete Hegseth, why isn't this a pure win-win? Because the reality is, because like NPR and the Washington Post and the New York Times and CNN and the AP, et cetera, are all responsible journalistic outlets and not propaganda outlets, they will still continue to call, whenever they have a story, to call the Pentagon and get their side of it. They just won't be in the building. And so isn't this like Hegseth getting the best of all worlds?
I kind of think you could imagine a world where there's an anti-press defense secretary who feels that way, but I don't think that is really how like MAGA operates. I mean, like so much of the MAGA sort of ethos around all of these things and the mystique, it's all geared around like, we are spurning you and we're flipping you off and we're spitting on you and we're kicking you and all that stuff, but you're still coming back. Like you're still here, right? You're still in the room. It's Donald Trump at every rally, like getting everybody in the whole crowd to like turn around and do ritual 2 minutes hate against all of the TV cameras in the press box and all the people there, where it's like, like we are getting like you're in sort of a position of power. Like you're the media in the mind of like a random Trump supporter. You're the media, you're the mainstream, you're this big journalistic enterprise, but like we're the ones who have the power here because we're the ones who are booing you, and we're shaking our fist and yelling and having a good time, and you're going to keep coming back. And like that's the sort of tension of those two things. Like if Donald Trump tried to do that and it was just one TV camera from one American news network, it would be a lot more boring. And I think like Pete Hegseth, he's a media guy, right? I mean, he wants to have them there to kick around, which is why, I mean, if he just wanted them to all stop coming to the briefings, they wouldn't have budged on the original policy, right? I mean, they tried. The fact that they're doing this like sort of halfway thing now, and you've got Sean Parnell, the Defense Department spokesman, kind of knitting his brow and harumphing about how these guys are moving the goalposts on them because all we're saying is that you need to understand that this is what we want you to do. I mean, like it's like plainly they're trying to get to a place where enough people will sign it that they can keep like. Right. Keep the whole thing going on without seeming to cuck on it. Yeah. Right. So it's, I mean, they're in a really stupid, completely self-inflicted position here. And again, like I said, it is / would be funnier if it were not that like the clown institution here is the entire U.S. military and the goofballs we have running it. Yeah.
It's kind of amazing that all those Republicans voted to confirm Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, even when every last one of them knew that this is like the least qualified guy to ever be nominated for a serious cabinet post. Ever.
Many such cases. Can I give you a weird hypothetical? Do you think if they could all do it over again, like today, if it was like, if there were some amendment to the Constitution where 10 months in, you reassess the cabinet, do you think we'd have like the same vote as before? Or do you think that guys like Hegseth, guys like RFK, like they would actually get more pushback the second time around? I actually don't know how I think that would go the second time.
I am reasonably certain that none of them would change their minds even a little bit. There is a term in finance world when a party and a counterparty are making a deal that they both know is bad, but they want to just get to yes anyway. And the term is, "I'll be gone, you'll be gone," which means that by the time the bad shit happens, this tranche of derivatives or this product or this stock split or this merger and acquisition, by the time the bad stuff happens, it's somebody else's problem. And I think that's probably how Republican senators view all of the Trump cabinet nominees.
You could very well be right about that. I wish I were confident that you were not right about it.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, it's great. I'm very happy that Secretary of Defense Hegseth is out getting his laser hair removal and getting baby oil all over himself and getting super hard bodied. I'm sure that's going to really help our military. God forbid we ever find ourselves in a shooting war with China. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow the channel. Come sit with us. Ride shotgun as American democracy goes on a rocket sled to hell. Good luck, America.